Hello there, everybody. Welcome to another stream with your two favorite Wyoming paleontologists. I am Doc Dino, or Dr. Dino if you want to be formal.
And I'm Vanessa, but everyone calls me Nessie.
Yes. We're out here in the Badlands, Wyoming, trying to save some fossils, but we're here today to tell you about one particular dinosaur because, well, it's one of our favorites and it's really important historically. So we're here to celebrate its 200th birthday. So we hope you all have fun joining us. We are not alone tonight, however. We also have a special guest, Dominic, or Dom for short. Dom, would you like to introduce yourself too?
Hi, I am Dominic, or Dominic Peary. I am one of the co-hosts of Doc's other channel, The Boneheads. I almost forgot our name. That would have been bad. Over there, we currently review just orc dinosaurs, but there are other things, hopefully in the works. We're waiting for Monster Hunter Wilds to do the other big project that I'm proposing. So
yes, that'll be a fun project, but that will be for the future.
Yes.
Also, not sure if it's just on my end, Dom, but you're a little quiet.
I can fix that. Give me 2 seconds.
Turn
down my.
Here, I can turn you up a little bit. Oh, there. Hopefully that works. Alrighty.
Oh, also, was an intern at Harvard and will probably be an intern at Harvard this year in their fossil lab.
Yes. So you did hear back on that?
I have to send in my application, but maybe. All I know is that the prep lab has 4 interns and is full, and the collections has 0. So that.
Right. Well, here's hoping you get in, and here's hoping you have a good time.
If I get in, I'll have a good time.
Should we sing happy birthday and show the Iguanodon cake?
Yeah, we kind of wanted to do something a little cheesy.
I thought that was a joke.
No, I worked really hard on this Iguanodon cake.
We have a little cake here that Nessie spent a little while putting together. Oh, the candle has fallen over.
Watch open up the stream on my phone. I'm going to do that.
That might help you see.
Well, that and the fact so I can read chat.
That's fair. So for the people in chat, just so everyone knows, we are streaming this on both my channel and Nessie's channel. If you're not a subscriber of her, go check her out. And here...
I want to make sure you can see the thumb spike. Can we see the thumb spike on here?
Hopefully we got...
I'm going to end up spilling
it. Don't let it fall onto Doc's
We have a little thumb spike here, because this is a little Iguanodon.
Oh, that's adorable.
So, for its 200th anniversary, 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Iguanodon. Happy birthday to you. Also, special happy birthday to... Yep.
And happy birthday, 20th birthday to Caden.
Yeah.
Here's to you, buddy.
Right? Happy birthday, bud.
Cute.
Hope y'all enjoyed.
I'm gonna ask Doc why you didn't celebrate the devil's number of subscribers.
Yeah, the 666.
That's fair. This is also a little mini celebration. I hit 666 subscribers, which I just think is fun. Why not just a little celebration thing? Nessie, you're about to hit that soon too, actually.
Yeah.
All right. And yep, people are saying happy birthday, Iguanodon. Happy birthday, Caden.
Yeah.
Well, shall we introduce the big birthday boy?
The big birthday boy.
All righty. Oh, probably shouldn't start at the end of the presentation. Whoopsie daisy. Here. If I can hit the right... There we go. Alrighty. So, once again, folks, we are here for Iguanodon, a very large, very special ornithopod dinosaur. If you follow mine and Nessie's content, you would have seen the weekend before last, we talked about ornithopods in general. While there, we discovered, or while making that presentation, we discovered that Iguanodon 200 turns 200 today. So we figured we might as well celebrate it.
Yeah.
Oh, I did see a question pop up too. Oh, hey Dom, looks like someone agrees with you that the prehistoric kingdom Iguanodon is really nice.
It is the best looking iguanodon in my opinion.
Also, Caden, the guy we just wished happy birthday to, he's asking you, I think, don't you need a degree to be an intern?
Oh yeah, I get to do a speech about how I'm doing paleontology backwards. No, you don't. I dropped out of college in my first year because I have very, very chronic ADHD. You'll probably see that through the stream or in any of our videos over at Boneheads, as I'm usually spinning in a circle or playing with something in the background. I'm looking at myself, not the actual
I
camera.
can
Do
confirm.
that.
Case in
Yeah.
point.
But no, you're not. It depends where you're interning. Harvard does not need any degrees. Mind you, they help immensely. I got excessively lucky that I had a back door in by directly knowing the preparator there. I had a back door in, but a degree always helps. Do not do what I'm doing. If you go into paleontology and you want to do research, get a degree. You need one. I do not want to go into research at all. I don't find research boring. It's just I hate writing. So
Yeah, which is
I
fair.
yeah. And these two people have degrees and they're researchers. Is how it works. It's also
Yes, but we both started with bachelor's degrees, right? And
you
I
had
still
something.
only have a bachelor's, though Nessie has a master's now. So
I have
there's no right way to do paleontology. Just
correct.
take it slow and get to know people, have fun,
It's
and
also
follow your passions.
luck is also a big thing. Paleontology is a very, very small field. There's a statistic I heard a while ago that there at some point, like maybe 20 years ago, there was only 40 preparators in the United States. 40.
Wait, full-time preparators, right?
Yeah. Which that is a horrifying statistic. Mind you, it's probably I guess it might be 50 now. There might be one in each state, maybe. But paleontology, a lot of people want to study dinosaurs and other things and small things. So it is
Yeah.
experience is king in paleontology, always.
Yeah.
That is my spiel.
Well, at any rate, again, today we are here to talk about Iguanodon in particular. As we've already said, it's the 200th anniversary of this dinosaur being named, and it has quite a history. We're going to go over quite a bit of it, so we should probably get started.
Mhm.
So here's a fun little factoid for people. Just because an animal is extinct doesn't mean it can't evolve. That probably sounds weird. And what I mean by that is paleontology is sort of a unique field in the sciences. It's actually one of the younger fields too, only really starting in the early 1800s / late 1700s.
Biological
And
field.
what was that?
Isn't it the youngest in biological fields?
I mean, I'd argue, would genetics would be younger.
Yeah, I guess.
But anyway, paleontology actually relies on a lot of information from both the fields of biology and geology, along with chemistry, physics, and a bunch of others. So it's sort of an ever-changing, ever-evolving field. And as the field itself changes, so too does our understanding of the animals within it. And Iguanodon is probably one of the best examples because it's been around for 200 years. This animal has seen literally every stage of how our understanding of dinosaurs changed.
The only other example would be like Megalosaurus, right?
Which is the first dinosaur to be named.
Exactly. So,
and Megalosaurus' 200th birthday was last year.
Yeah.
Also in February, interestingly enough.
Yeah, weird.
I'm kind of curious. Nessie, how did you first learn about Iguanodon? Was it in a certain movie?
Probably picture books as a child. You know,
Yeah,
how we're all
probably.
nerds and we have all of our dino encyclopedias.
Yeah,
Probably something along those lines.
I'd say.
That
But
or
then Walking with Dinosaurs
Yeah.
And
Walking
Disney's
with.
Dinosaur.
and Disney's Dinosaur. That was probably my first, like, oh, I love Aladar so much.
Did I see Walking with or Disney's first? Because Disney's was 2001, right? And
Hmm.
Walking with was 1999.
Yeah.
I actually don't know which. I actually don't know which one I would have seen first, but no, it's one of those. And I was trying to find it for the stream. I have one of the original Walking with Iguanodon toys somewhere in my house. I tried to find it.
Oh, nice.
I just talked about
yep.
that. It came from McDonald's, and you can push the
It-
button, and the eyes light up, and he goes,
Well,
"Stand
no,
together."
that's Disney's Dinosaur.
That's
Oh, yeah, I was
Disney's.
talking about Disney's.
I was Walking with. It's the black and white Iguanodon. I think that's the American Iguanodon, which we'll get.
Yes, we will talk about that one later, actually.
Mhm.
Also, really quick, we have a super chat come in. Thank you very much, Vamsy Jessica Manda. No message attached, but thank you very much. And when you think of dinosaurs, Iguanodon probably isn't one of the first ones you think of. You probably think of T-Rex or Triceratops. But to me, Iguanodon's always been one of the core dinosaurs. Like, it's always in there, even if it's not the first one you think of.
I think it's the best example of the word dinosaur. Just
Mhm.
itself.
Yeah, maybe. And as you can sort of see here on screen, it's really changed. And we're going to go through each of these stages step by step. Starting with the discovery. So as we said, through the 17 and 1800s, paleontology kind of got its start. Not as its own field, but as a subset of naturalism, which really was just science in general. Like, you had doctors who also studied rocks and fossils and anatomy and physics. People just kind of followed what they were interested in. And some of these naturalists started to realize that bones they kept finding couldn't come from living animals. I think the first big one a lot of people cite is Mosasaurus, right?
Mhm.
Because we could tell, hey, this is a big reptile, and we don't have any sea monsters like this alive today.
No.
But of course, Mosasaurus wasn't alone. It was just one of the first big ones. And these European naturalists found these fossils all over the continent, plenty in Spain, Germany, and especially England. But bones weren't the only things to appear. We also started finding weird footprints and teeth. Lots and lots of teeth. And if that sounds weird to you, that's because teeth are the hardest part of your body. They're not made of bone, they're made of dentin and enamel. Two different biological structures that are really chemically resistant and really resistant to just weathering in general. So they survive well.
Enamel counts as a mineral for what it's created. It's one of the only biological minerals that exist.
Oh yeah. Also an exception to the rule that all minerals are non-biologic, because
Correct.
there has to be exceptions.
Science
and
is
some
great.
Some of the teeth found during this time were found near Sussex, England. And in 1822, they came into the possession of Gideon Mantell and his, at the time, wife, Mary Ann Woodhouse. Now, there are a few different stories for how those teeth got into their possession. Do you like to list them off, Nessie?
Well, if we were going to go to the next picture.
Yes, ma'am. Or, well...
Oh, I guess, yeah. So this one, so if you're familiar at all with ankylosaur teeth, pachycephalosaur teeth, they all have this similar leaf shape with these like deep embedded roots. And so I just thought, when you popped this picture up, I was like, wow, how similar they are. And some sauropods too, right?
Well, I was meaning the story of how they got the teeth. Like the Mantells.
Mm-hmm. You mean about how it was originally a she, and then when they got divorced, it became a he?
Go ahead.
Well,
that.
that's what you get in the 1800s with gender differences, I suppose.
Yeah. So as the original story goes, Gideon Mantell was on a house call while Marianne was walking along the road and found a gravel pile. And in that gravel pile, she found some weird shaped rocks. She showed them to Gideon, and he recognized them as teeth. As Nessie said, after they divorced, he changed the story so that he was the one who originally found them. But so, yeah, agreed. Boo, boo.
Not the worst
Uh,
thing for the 1800s.
Yeah, it's
no,
true.
but it's still kind of a crummy thing to do.
Oh, yeah, fully.
So we're trying to bring some justice back to Marianne.
Well,
Oh, and a little note here: all of these next few illustrations you're going to see were done by Marianne. She was actually a
so
phenomenal artist.
Yeah.
But anyway, there is one. There's a third story that some historians subscribe to, which is just the Mantells bought the teeth. They were known to buy fossils from quarrymen, so it's not out of the realm of possibility.
I would believe that over they found them in a gravel pile because when I'm aware there are places like even where you guys work where you can walk and just find teeth, but the street of an English town would not be a place that would be like, oh, gravel pile, oh, dinosaur teeth.
Well,
I don't know. It's happened in Montana with myself, so
But that's Montana,
yeah.
not an English town that's existed for 100
yeah,
years.
not Sussex.
Exactly.
Well, to be fair, these rocks were quarried up from a mine. They weren't on the surface. England doesn't have a lot of fossils at the surface, but it does have a lot underground.
I thought the story was that she was just walking down the road and saw them.
It was in a gravel pile by the side of the road.
Interesting. Yeah, but again,
So three different possible stories.
Yeah.
yeah, and there could be more. Could be. We'll never know. But
Also, apparently, Caden is now singing the Dinosaur Train intro, which I don't know
They
how
have
they
been-
got on that.
they have been for a while. I don't know why they started. I've been watching this for a while.
The chat works in mysterious ways, I guess.
It does.
Also, Sarcastic the Rhapsody agrees. Justice for Mary.
Justice.
Women in STEM
Well-
fields.
Well, at any rate, however the Mantells originally got the teeth, we do know that Gideon was an early naturalist. He really loved fossils, he loved rocks, and he became particularly fascinated by these teeth. And he took them around England and showed them to a bunch of his contemporaries. And if you're familiar with the sciences, you might see some names you'll recognize. As an example, he consulted with Charles Lyell, who's sometimes called the father of modern geology,
Mhm.
and George Cuvier, the father of extinction. This man literally pioneered the concept that species could go extinct, which
Yep.
seems kind of mundane to us now, but for the 1800s, this was a big deal. Cuvier also originally named Mosasaurus, I think.
Yes.
Was it Mouse or was it Nixie?
I think it was Mosasaurus.
I can check that. Give me 2 seconds.
That'd be appreciated. Well, anyway, when Cuvier looked at these teeth, he thought they belonged to a rhinoceros, which, as Nessie kind of brought up before, herbivorous animals tend to get a similar shape of tooth.
Like a leaf.
Yeah, a concept that later would be coined by Darwin, actually, convergent evolution, which
Neither.
a whole stream.
Oh,
Right.
convergent evolution, yeah, for sure.
What was that, Dom?
He has about a few thousand species. I'm scrolling through it. Give me a second.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Seems about right.
Early days of the field.
Mm.
But anyway, Cuvier thought these were rhinoceros teeth, and the next day changed his mind. But Charles Lyell didn't pass on that information to Gideon Mantell, so Mantell kind of just left the teeth by the wayside for a few years, until he heard, eventually, of Cuvier's rediagnosis. Cuvier identified them as belonging to an herbivorous reptile, and Gideon started searching for a modern comparison, and he found it in the iguana. Also, I see Dom gesturing wildly. I'm guessing you found something.
Yeah, he didn't name either of them. He named
Oh.
Megatherium.
Oh.
Did you say Megatherium?
Yes.
The Jesus sloth?
Yes.
What?
Because every
Wait,
time
what?
there's one in a museum, it's always like, oh.
That's how you pose a
Yeah.
ground sloth. That's how you pose a ground sloth. That's how the
I
Earth. I've never heard it like that though. That's insane.
I've never heard it before, but I see it. Now I'm just thinking of the giant one that's at the Field Museum.
Mhm.
Well,
By the
the
little
one in
tar exhibit
Yeah.
where you got to lift up the big
Tar
legs.
um the one at Harvard, which I believe is Erythrotherium. That's not how you pronounce that name. The one in the Smithsonian and the one at La Brea is all like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Huh. I'm never going to be able to unhear that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, as was starting to become commonplace during this time, now that Gideon had a modern analog for these teeth, he wanted to publish on it. And he presented the teeth to the Royal Society of London on February 10th, 1825. 200 years ago today. And so, Iguanodon was born. Now, at the start, Gideon only had these teeth to go on, and the teeth were about 20 times the size of the iguanas he was working with. So he figured Iguanodon was a 60-foot long iguana.
Well, of
As
course.
you can see in the first reconstruction here.
That's the proportions of iguanas are scary. That tail
They're
is too long.
they're weird lizards.
Every
And
lizard is a weird lizard.
that's fair. And, of course, now we know this reconstruction to be wrong, but for the time, with what they were working with and the theories that were floating around in early paleontology, they thought if you had a scrap of bone, you could identify the entirety of an animal.
You say that like it's not different today.
Well, today we're more cautious, usually, or at least we try to be.
Spinosaurids.
No, we're not going there.
Dom, don't prove me wrong or I'll kick you.
What do you mean? I can name more than just that to prove you wrong, and you know it.
Well, for now, while Gideon was hastily putting together his presentation, he forgot to give his new creature a species name. So he just named it Iguanodon. A few years later, another naturalist, Friedrich Hohl, gave it the species name Anglicum, meaning English.
Adding on to
So
this,
this was later changed to Anglicus.
adding on to
For
this,
grammatical reasons, I think.
Mm.
Go ahead, Dom.
adding on to this, initially it wasn't actually going to be named Iguanodon. I just learned this while reading into it.
Yes.
He initially was going to name it Iguanosaurus, and then was told that fits iguana better, and then iguana was named iguana. So technically, you could still
Well,
name something Iguanosaurus. That doesn't
yeah.
exist yet, which is interesting.
Yeah, maybe we'll find something someday. You want to find a late
And then-
Cretaceous iguanodont?
Sure.
Well, funny.
And as y'all can see here on the screen, you can see some iguanodon teeth and actual iguana teeth, and you can see how similar they are. But since this was a time of discovery, things were about to change. See, as time marched on, more and more fossils started to appear in the English countryside. Oh dear. Yeah, people are joking in the chat.
What?
Among these fossils was a huge stone slab that had the remains of a crumpled up herbivorous reptile with teeth like an iguana. The Mantels bought this piece again, and Gideon revised his description, changing Iguanodon into not a lizard, but a reptile with vertically oriented legs, so right underneath its body, and honestly, kind of like a scaly rhino is how I would describe the next stage.
compared to what the Crystal Palace does to it.
Well, I'm saying that's the scaly rhino.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
chunky boy.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're big. Have you guys seen the Crystal Palace things?
Not
Yeah.
in person.
No, not in person.
I
We
want to
need
though.
to we need to get
I would
Gojira
love
to
that
visit
documentary.
there. He's close. He was in
That's true.
England.
We could.
Yeah.
Dom's talking about another friend of ours.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Crystal Palace, cool.
Anyway, Mary Ann, being the talented artist she was, not only drew the skeleton itself, which you can see right here, this is her work, she also drew a skeletal drawing, one of the very first in the history of paleontology, and it's an image that's been cemented in the field ever since. It's right here at the top of the page. A giant iguana-like lizard standing on top of a branch that looks like a spinal column.
But the thumb spike is on the nose.
Yes,
And it's so cute.
there was a big spike found with a skeleton too, which
Mhm.
Gideon put on the nose like a rhinoceros iguana.
Because of course.
I mean, if you only have one, it's not a bad idea, but it's wrong.
I'm only fine with it because that pile of bones looks awful to prep.
Mhm.
Well, apparently it still exists. It didn't get turned into dust. Apparently it's somewhere in museum collections.
It's that it looks so. There's nothing there. It's just a pile.
There's a lot
No,
there. There's a lot of vertebrae.
there's a lot there.
Like
but
there's a
it
lot of
looks-
diagnostic material.
It's just all condensed into one slab.
I mean, this is how you find a lot of fossils. Most of
It
them aren't all
is.
pretty and articulated.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the rest of the Iguanodon is. We'll get to that.
We'll get to the next big discovery.
Yeah.
But for the meantime, this giant slab of stone was found near the town of Maidstone. Because of which, the town now has an iguanodon on their coat of arms, which I absolutely love.
That's the coolest thing ever. I've never seen that. What?
Yep,
Yeah.
they have a dino on their coat of arms. It's great.
Coolest thing ever.
All right. And this image was about to be set in stone for about 30 to 40 years. For the record, this skeleton was found in 1832. I keep wanting to say the 1900s.
I know.
A couple decades later, in the 1850s, someone else entered the stage, Richard Owen. If you have ever done anything in regards to paleontology or looked up anything, you know this guy. You know this man. Richard Owen was the lead paleontologist for the Royal Museum, right,
Mhm.
in London. He was the head of the Royal Society. He coined the term dinosaur.
Was he lead paleontologist, or wasn't he lead? Or I thought he was lead naturalist because paleontology didn't technically exist.
That's fair. Lead naturalist, but we usually remember him as one of the earliest paleontologists.
Yeah.
Owen had access to a lot of fossils working in the museum in London, and he found 3 giant reptiles that all had some very similar features, especially in the hips and the vertebrae and the limb bones. And so Owen grouped them together. Now, this was done a lot in the past. Not all of these groups have stuck around, but Dinosauria has. And I'd argue they're now probably the most recognizable extinct group of animals. Well, mostly extinct.
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah.
Unless you
I-
count our avian and non-avian friends.
Yeah. And in 1854, Owen was what we would now call a consultant for the construction of Crystal Palace Park, which was a public attraction that gave people their first real taste of prehistory and the stuff hidden beneath their feet. The dinosaurs here are particularly famous, but Crystal Palace also has mosasaurs, it has ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs, all kinds of just extinct animals. And it sparked the first wave of dinomania, you could say.
Hmm.
Also, there is another famous image attached to this historical event, too. If you look down here, you can see a bunch of people sitting inside one of these sculptures, which apparently was a real dinner event that they held while the models were under construction. And a lot of important naturalists at the time were in attendance.
And
You can
Richard
see some of their
Owen.
names up here: Owen, Cuvier, and
Mm.
Buckland.
And Richard Owen said the coolest thing there. I should have like pulled it out. Maybe 2 seconds.
Uh, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I know what you're going to say.
Well, I'm fully aware you know what I'm gonna say. Richard, where the hell is it?
Yes, Bart, they did.
Who?
Oh, yeah,
They had dental batteries.
we can look through questions while we wait. So you might want to
Yeah.
Me?
Sorry, I should have preemptively done this.
Let's see. Well, seems sarcastic the Rhapsod agrees about the coat of arms, that they're really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom Rutledge, for thinking I have an interesting life. I would disagree at some points, but that's me. Caden also wants to visit the Crystal Palace Park. It's definitely on my bucket list. Oh, and
We're gonna get to him.
yep, and Caden is also bringing up another figure we'll be seeing in a few minutes, Benjamin Waterhouse Hawkins.
I have the paper.
Okay,
I've seen it.
Dom, do you mind if I just say it?
Yeah, go ahead. I can't find it. God damn it.
This great old beast is not deceased. There's life in him again.
It's so good. I can't find. I'm so angry. I
It's a
couldn't
great
find
line.
it. I used that line in D&D actually.
I don't
Not
blame
too
you.
long ago. It's so good.
But it's time to move on to the next big event in Iguanodon's time on this earth. Speaking of a world beneath, our next discovery takes us about 300 feet under the earth. In 1878, near the town of Bernissart, Belgium, a group of miners discovered dozens of bones hidden in a coal mine. Under the guidance of Préparateur Louis de Paul, I hope I'm saying that right, dozens of skeletons were drawn up from the mine. In total, 38 skeletons of this dinosaur were dug up and brought to the surface. And many of them were preserved completely articulated, with almost all the bones in place, save for a few odd situations where a fault line ran through the skeleton, which happens when you're underground.
Yeah.
That's still pretty cool.
It really,
That's
really,
really
cool.
cool.
Keep in mind, this is the second dinosaur ever named. And just a few decades after it's named, we find 40 of them.
This is so lucky.
It's incredible, to be honest.
It's. Oh, if only we could find 40 megalosaurs.
Oh, I wish we could find one.
That's
or one
true.
good one.
No.
Anyway, in regards to these
Yeah.
iguanodonts, there is something weird with them. Besides there being so many and so many that are so complete, all of them are adults. There might be a subadult or two mixed in there, but they're all adults, no juveniles. And there are a few hypotheses as to why. Would you like to go over those, Nessie?
From the cave?
Yeah, from Bernissart.
Well, no, because if they didn't have nests in there, then I don't see why they would have the youngsters with them.
Well, because a lot of ornithopods we know traveled in multi-generational groups.
That's true, yeah. We see that a lot with like Myosaur, Peoplesaurum, things like that.
Yeah.
Myosaura, Montosaurus. In fact, we have other bone beds of Iguanodon, and those include juveniles.
Mm.
This one is weird.
I actually didn't know that.
Yes, discovered in Germany in the either in the 1930s or 1970s. The paper describing it is from the 70s, I know. But as for why there's only adults here, there are a few hypotheses. The one I subscribe to, and this is just my opinion, is that a whole herd was traveling through a swamp, and only the large, heavy adults were big enough to sink into the mud of the swamp. They sunk in, got stuck, while the juveniles could keep on walking across the soft mud, and then the adults passed away. Now, this doesn't really explain why there's very little scavenging, and also why there aren't many other fossils from this swamp. There are a couple crocodiles, some fish, and some plant material. But the only other remnant of a large dinosaur is one theropod claw. That's weird.
That makes me think of something else. Because I think about students have a theory of this was a sort of maybe they did something weird, like they had a mating group of like all the moms and their babies stayed somewhere where the single adults left to go somewhere so they could fight with their thumb spikes, do that. Something happened where all these adults were washed away. That would be my
maybe.
guess.
In the end, we don't know for sure, and we may never know, because unfortunately, the mine has been flooded. Keep in mind, this was being excavated in the 1800s. In the 1900s, it fell into disrepair and flooded with groundwater. And
The
at this
Nazis
point, it would
actually
probably
tried to
take
revive it.
Yeah,
at
but
this-
then they lost
Not
the war,
Nazis.
so they
Yeah.
could.
yeah,
the Germans. Yeah.
Germans, not Nazis. Not World War One. not two.
World War One. At this point, it would probably take millions of dollars to get the water out, let alone extract the skeletons that are already there. Because there's something hidden within these skeletons that I haven't shared.
Can I take this because I've dealt with it?
I was hoping you'd like to talk about it.
Yeah. So most, if not all, of these skeletons have something called pyrite disease. Now, a lot of times in fossils, we have to deal with stuff that diseases in rocks. But 99% of the time, rock diseases take hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of years to do anything. Pyrite disease can take a decade to completely erode a fossil, as the pyrite, when it is exposed to oxygen and oxidizes, eats through the rock. This happens. I actually don't know where it happens fully because it's not. I know how it happens, but there's not.
It seems to be common with marine fossils or just in rocks that would produce iron pyrite, fool's gold for
Yeah.
anyone not familiar. And in some severe cases, it doesn't even take decades. Sometimes it can completely erode a fossil in days.
Mhm.
The
There are
Iguanodon.
stories of them trying to carry these iguanodons out of the mine and having them just fall into dust as they expose to the air.
Yeah, I have talked to my mentor about some of this, and what these fossils went through horrifies me.
We'll get to some of that.
Yeah. Oh, no, well, no, I'm just talking about the pyrite disease, and never mind the other preparators that have to deal with this. I've heard stories
Right.
about them too.
We almost
But-
lost all of the Standing Rock Tribe Museum in Fort Yates. We lost almost all of it due to a condemned building. So it was just getting all the moisture, all the air. It was just left out, and nobody wanted to take care of it.
Yep.
So we tried to fix as much as we could.
And
So
here's
bad.
something I didn't know until today.
Oh, you know
Pyrite
what?
disease
Oh
can
no,
spread.
it can't. Yeah. When I was on the one creature that I'm not allowed to say that I've completely prepped out, we have to keep some of the. I believe we have to keep. I'm not allowed to say what part we keep. We have to keep part of it in a box in a separate drawer, so the rest of it doesn't get the pirate disease.
Yeah.
I have to be
which-
very careful when prepping it out.
Which is terrifying to me. Yeah, rocks can get sick apparently.
I also just remind myself of what you were talking about, of what these fossils went through.
Well, we'll get to that. And as Nessie mentioned, damp conditions can really accelerate pyrite disease,
Yeah.
like if you're trapped in mudstone, like all of these iguanodons were.
Yeah.
Now, to his
Hmm.
credit, DePaul thought fast and he tried a few different methods to save the fossils. Some worked and some didn't. We might have lost a couple of these iguanodon. And, later workers would correct his methods slowly. And we have a little excerpt here from the Wikipedia section on this because
Worst.
it's something special.
It's so bad.
It causes all of us suffering.
I'm trained to be a preparator. You don't understand how much pain this causes me. I
No,
had
I
this
think I do.
explained.
Hey, Nessie's prepared a lot of
Yeah,
fossils.
I've prepared a lot of
Okay.
stuff for the
I
Museum
had
of the
this
Rockies mostly.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's so bad.
It's really sad.
So, to help save these fossils, DePaul covered the fossils with wet clay, sealing them with paper and plaster, reinforced by iron rings. Keep in mind what I just said about wet conditions accelerating pyrite decay. After getting the fossils to Brussels, they opened the plaster and injected the bones with boiling gelatin mixed with the oil of cloves as a preservative.
Like for a bad toothache.
Yeah.
I
Sorry, what? Sorry, that went over my head. What do you mean for a bad toothache?
People back in the day, when I still know some people today, that you'll use cloves, crushed cloves or oil of clove, and rub it right where you have a toothache. And it's supposed to help, like orgel.
That
Yeah.
You saying that
Apparently it's a
reminded me of
painkiller.
what my preparator said. This sounds like a witch's brew. This entire thing is a witch's brew. What they did to
Dinosaur
the
witch's
Iguanodon.
brew.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
bones of the long dead lizard, boiling gelatin, and the oil of cloves.
Well, hey, don't forget to harden them with glue, which
Correct.
is the most reasonable part of all of this.
Yeah, really.
And then, of course, wrap them in tinfoil.
Yes, wrap them in tin foil and cover them in paper mache. Uh,
A common dry
covering
thing.
them in water, basically, and then locking that in. Which does not help the pyrite disease.
No, no, it didn't.
About 50 years later, these skeletons were literally falling apart on the mounts. They were
No.
turning to dust.
So it did not work.
No.
No.
So the director at the time decided to try and save them again with a slightly better method, though not as safe for the preparators. They decided to treat their pyrite problem with a combination of alcohol, arsenic, and shellac. Now, shellac is fine. That's standard for the time,
Mhm.
even if it is annoying nowadays. Alcohol is also fine. For those who don't know, alcohol evaporates really quickly, and it can cause the fossil to fall apart a little bit on a microscopic scale.
Mhm.
So then you want to have plastic or something mixed in, because as the alcohol evaporates, it leaves the plastic behind, holding the bone together. That's our modern method, and it's also what shellac does.
Alcohol also does something else, which is that prevents the development of mold, which
Yes. And for the record, this combination of materials was intended to penetrate the fossils with alcohol, prevent mold with arsenic, and then harden with shellac.
No, yeah,
The alcohol does that already.
it does most of that. The shellac is what hardens it. So, again, why did you choose arsenic? Just
Nessie, you probably have the most preparation experience. Any idea why they chose arsenic?
Well, I personally don't use it. I don't think it's legal to use it anymore.
no.
But I mean, hey,
No.
the 1800s sounded pretty fun.
Yes. We shall go find a
1937.
Tyrannosaurus with our opium.
With our opium.
I don't even know this was legal in 1936. We knew what arsenic did in 1936, didn't we?
I get mad at fiberglass inside of jackets because you got to carry that stuff and then
Yep.
you're red and itchy. I can imagine arsenic.
You
I mean-
open it, you die. You just
Yeah,
die.
pretty much.
Giving them the benefit of the doubt, I think arsenic was still used in taxidermy at the time. But
Yeah, probably.
that's not with fossils.
That's bone. You don't need to keep that fresh. Excuse me.
Mesothelioma, my favorite flavor.
Yeah, yes, mesothelioma.
I follow a channel on YouTube that turned that ad into the can.
Oh no.
I'll show you later. It's
Okay.
great.
Oh god. So yeah,
But
this-
anyway, this wasn't the last chance for these fossils. They did get another round with modern methods where they removed the shellac, the glue, and the gelatin.
which was still there for some reason.
Yes. And they used polyvinyl acetate, cyanoacrylate, and epoxy.
Was it sponsored by
Things that you're
Jello?
supposed to use.
Not in the 1800s.
Not in the 1800s.
Also, their wording here is great. They impregnated it with the acetate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the wording you use. Or at least
I'm
it's the
aware.
wording
It's
I've seen
just
used.
funny to me, a 21-year-old.
Oh.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Eh.
Well, at any rate, if any of you out there find a fossil or buy a fossil and you want to preserve it, I am begging you,
Give it to
do
a
not do
predator.
what any of these people, except those in the green zone, did.
Use
Give
arsenic.
it.
Just bathe it in arsenic.
Bathe it in arsenic.
You can only end well.
While you're at it, just give it an acid bath and leave it there for 5 years.
Oh no.
5 years? An acid bath would dissolve these fossils in about 5 minutes.
Maybe.
Man.
Well, despite
Actually, before we move on,
Go ahead.
one more thing. If you find a fossil once you've prepared it, the best thing you can do is give it to a trained preparator.
Mm.
Yes.
Do that, please.
And
It
also,
can only be beneficial.
we would all also appreciate it if you donated it to a museum, but if it's your land, it's your fossil. Depending
Correct.
on your country, not every country is like this. Canada, I think, even private land, you can't keep your fossils.
Yeah, some
And
places.
all fossils are owned by the government legally.
Yeah.
Mm.
Which we should do. But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Stay legal and give them to museums.
Stay legal.
Don't bathe them in dangerous
That's our
drugs.
that's
and
our
boiling
PSA
gelatin.
for this episode. Stay legal.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, changing views in kangaroos. This
What?
is probably why
Sorry,
I invited
what?
a few Aussies, but I didn't get any. What was that?
Your accent that you
That
just whipped
accent-
out of nowhere.
That accent
Trying to
almost
bathe
made
in
me
kangaroos.
spit out my Dr. Pepper. How dare you?
Well, in regards to the changing views in kangaroos,
Stop doing
the,
it!
despite the questionable preservation methods, a few dozen of the iguanodons survived, and they went on display at the Royal Belgian Museum of Natural Sciences. Thanks to how complete these fossils were, our view of Iguanodon and just dinosaurs completely changed. Within a few years, they went from these slow quadrupeds that dragged their tails on the ground. Well, they still drag their tails. But from slow and quadruped to an upright, really adaptable herbivore. We knew they were able to transition from 4 legs to 2 on a whim, just whenever they wanted. And because of this, and because of the time, and someone that was mentioned earlier, Benjamin Waterhouse Hawkins, the kangaroo stance or posture became commonplace because of how they. I'm losing the accent.
Yeah.
You are very slowly.
Because of how the Bernasotic iguanodons were posed. As you can see up here, a lot of drawings of them and several of the other reconstructions, they just look like big lizardy kangaroos. And this was due to Benjamin Waterhouse Hawkins' influence. He also posed the first dinosaur known from North America, Hadrosaurus, just like this. Funny enough, they're fairly closely related.
Kinda. Yeah.
Now, in the modern day, some of these Iguanodon are still posed like this. I do love that others are posed like they were found in the mine. Like, I
That's
just
the cool.
love that.
So cool. It's very cool.
This is one of the places I would absolutely love to go. You know, we should do our European tour and go to Crystal Palace and sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, what are you doing?
Go to Crystal Palace and go play in a cave.
I'm saying we should go on a European tour.
I would like to go. I want to see actually the mine that Archaeopteryx was found in.
Oh, that's true. And the Berlin Archaeopteryx.
Yeah, Berlin.
Exactly.
Actually, just the Museum of Naturkunde, just in general.
That was a good SVP.
I need to go to an
Uh,
SVP.
What accent should I do next?
I don't know.
Don't.
Yeah, don't. Dinosaur.
Actually, it's the dinosaur renaissance. Do a British accent, I dare you.
Oh,
I can do British. Better than I can do Italian.
Why would I say it?
What was that?
Yeah, just continue. Just continue.
A dinosaur renaissance. Now, Iguanodon, like many dinosaurs, was stuck in this. That's more Australian.
You actually did a better Australian accent doing British. That was impressive.
Iguanodon, like many dinosaurs, was stuck in this awkward kangaroo stance for decades. But about 100 years after Bernasat, our views on dinosaurs started to shift. Thanks to paleontologists such as Ostrom, Barker, Horner, and Barsbold, paleontology shifted from seeing dinosaurs as these sluggish boars to quick, warm-blooded animals. Now, Iguanodon itself didn't really cause this change, but renewed research during the Renaissance resulted in a new view of Iguanodon. Funny enough, this new research put Iguanodon back on all fours rather than up on two legs, but it was able to rear up on its hind legs, who do a Welsh accent.
I don't know if you know if anyone here knows what a real Welsh accent sound you do. Oh God!
Don't do it.
As someone who is Welsh, I'm now very curious what this is going to sound like.
And okay, it's been quite a while since I did a Welsh accent, but I can try to whip it out, I guess.
That's actually not bad. That's not okay.
I'm surprised.
I used to follow a Welsh creator. Now, if you know dinosaurs, this Iguanodon on screen probably looks pretty familiar. That's because our modern view hasn't changed too terribly much from this point in time. It's mostly just a few tiny details that have sort of changed. We will go over those, though, since our dinosaur has not fully evolved. He's only 150?
Probably, yeah. Look how pretty it is.
Also, in regards to the new research, we started finding a ton of new dinosaurs. We realized that Iguanodon was part of a larger family, the Iguanodontids. And these Iguanodontids, I just learned recently, they're known from every continent. Apparently, we have an Antarctic Iguanodont. It's fragmentary, but it's there.
I guess that makes sense. We have Metaborosaurus, so it had to get there somehow.
Yep, and we also have Iguanodontids from South America. Sorry, we have a cat trying to crash the party. Anyway, Iguanodon itself was also known from most of the continents, which raised some eyebrows. And eventually, a lot of researchers decided to look into the differences between these Iguanodons and these Iguanodon species. And using our modern definition of species, modern definitions, The cat is being catnapped. I see. Um, thanks to the new research, we've put these iguanodons in their own separate genera, and there are quite a few. But
Iguanodon.
prior to this research, having iguanodon in so many places led to a lot of things being named iguanodon, including 2 different animals in a program that is near and dear to many paleontology kids' hearts, Walking with Dinosaurs.
As Caden just said, it is a wastebasket taxon.
Yes. Notably not the worst in Dinosauria, but a wastebasket taxon.
Oh yeah, that'd be Megalosaurus is the worst in Dinosauria.
I think it is. But yeah, these 2 animals, despite being called Iguanodon in the same program, are now their own distinct genera. We shall now go over the many children of Sir
Okay, I was
Iggy.
gonna ask if you put them all. I'm so happy.
Also, someone said Germany, so I might do a German accent.
Oh,
Okay, sure, I guess.
Hey, I have a D&D character coming up who's German. I need to practice.
okay.
You've sent me this, actually. You're right.
The many species of Sir Iggy. There are 2 valid species currently. There is I. bernesartensis and I. galvensis. There are 3 dubious species as of present. Well, more than that, but they weren't listed like that.
The Angelicas.
Yes, there is I. anglicus, I. angelicus, and I. otteringii. Now you may recall the name Anglicus. That was the name given to the original iguanodon, just the teeth. Funny enough, that animal is no longer considered iguanodon. It's actually considered one of these new genera over here. I've been asked to be angrier. This has been moved to one of the new genera over here, Mantellisaurus asafirensis, named after the mantels. Anyway, I will now list off the old names of Iguanodon and the new genera. Asafirensis is Albisaurus albanus. Albinus is now Mantellisaurus asafirensis. Dawsonii is Beryllium. Esogerum is now Ponerosteus.
Angrier again.
Do I have permission
You've
to
been
read
asked to be angrier
Go ahead.
3 times now.
Fritoni belongs to Heterospidus. Healy is Heterosaurine indeterminate. Hoggy is Ovenodon Hoggy.
Okay.
Too angry?
He's taking a nap, so.
You've been told that is good.
Scared me, actually.
You've been told that is perfect. So I guess continue.
Hollingtoniensis is Darwinosaurus evolutionis.
That's a funny name.
Lacotensis is Dakotodon. Mantelli is Mantellisaurus again. Mongolensis is Alterinus. Orientalis is Alterinus cursanovi. Philipsi is Priodontonatus philipsi. Prestici is Cumnoria prestvici. And Susi is Muclodon susi.
Saying Darwinsaurus evolutionist
Yeah,
in a German
that's
accent sounds like you're saying a slur.
Okay, man.
Darwinsaurus evolutionis.
I don't know. I try. Is me switching accents and music?
No. Okay.
I could also do Spanish. It is known from
So
Spain.
Spanish. No.
¿Puedo hablar en español?
Porque nos los dos.
We must record. But yes, as I hope has been made obvious, Iguanodon was a lot of things and now is not a lot of things. That said, there are some interesting trends within Iguanodontids, which most of these here belong to now. They belong to the larger group that includes Iguanodon and its relatives.
Does any of these not?
Well, there is
As
some
the
sauropod material and some hadrosaurs in here.
as the indeterminate?
But interestingly enough, Iguanodon bernissartensis, named for the ones from Bernissart, lived with Mantellosaurus, which was a much smaller, more lightly built iguanodont. And that's a trend we see with them. In most places that have at least one iguanodont, there's a big, robust one and a small, lightly built one.
Mhm.
We just see it everywhere.
My grandma's
Um,
laughing at you.
I believe if
Though, funny enough, there is one place where this is reversed. In North Africa, we have the iguanodonts Oranosaurus and Lurdusaurus. Of those, Oranosaurus is bigger and more lightly built, and Lurdusaurus is small and very, very chunky.
those are
And
also
talk about
two.
Lurdusaurus.
Those are also two very weird animals. Oranosaurus
Yes.
snail and Lurdusaurus might be semi-aquatic.
Yes. Iguanodonts, possibly because they spread out so much, they get really, really weird in some places. They really stretch the ornithopod body plan in every direction it can go.
Actually, another example of another example of big small is actually North America. If I remember correctly, it's Dakota Don and Iguanotitan, right?
Did they live together? Oh, they are both Cedar Mountain, aren't they?
Yeah,
No, I don't know if they're the same member of the Cedar Mountain.
they might. I've heard. I might be wrong. You guys are the Wyoming people, and out there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Iguanotitan and Dakota Don.
Maybe. Oh, and Caden does bring up that Iguanodon bernissartensis is known from England. Here's the fun fact for you, Caden. Going back to Bernissart for a second, there is one Mantellosaurus in this herd of Iguanodon.
Which is weird.
Just one. But in the other multi-Iguanodon bone bed I know of from Germany, there are several Mantellosaurus and several Iguanodon mixed together. So maybe in addition to living together, they actually liked each other?
The other thing
Noodling.
would be, which does sometimes happen in nature, which is two species that are very similar to each other. One tend to be near each other, but two, they might even communally nested. So,
Mhm.
like maybe the mom literally didn't know the difference between my Iguanodon baby and my Mantellosaurus baby if they're both in the same nest, and they just communally took care of them.
Like brown-headed cowbirds, when they kick the babies out of the nest and steal the nest.
Exactly.
You know, I would actually love to see that. I not the kicking out part, but I'd love to see a mixed nest in paleo art. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Just
Possible.
really two big, really Iguanodon babies and two tiny Mantellosaurus babies.
Mm-hmm. Oh, look at these
Yeah.
runts.
But you know, we've gone through this whole history of Iguanodon, starting in again 1825 and going to the modern day. Enough of the past. Where is this animal now? Well, for one, there's always research going on with Iguanodon and Iguanodontids. It's still one of the most well-studied dinosaurs. The only one that might beat it out could be Tyrannosaurus or
Probably.
Triceratops,
Trace.
which could just be from popularity.
Maybe also the Morrison sauropods, but even then,
I doubt it, honestly.
yeah.
But because research is always going on, our picture is always changing a little bit. And it's always going to. That's one of the things I love about paleontology. It's never a static field, and it's never going to be, just because we're always finding new fossils. And we always get new researchers who have new hypotheses. For example, with Iguanodon, recent research in the last decade has shown that ornithopods in general should have a pretty sturdy, robust neck. They shouldn't have a noodle neck like this one. Actually, the Walking with Dinosaurs ones aren't too bad. But they should be kind of thick and chunky.
Thick boys.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can think of them like horses. Horses actually have really thin neck bones,
Mm-hmm.
but they have a big, chunky neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should also have a really strong, powerful tail with tall neural spines, the spikes coming off the back, and just really burly.
Iguanodon had
Iguanodon-
huge arms. Huge.
Yes, Iguanodon is an exception among a rule, even. It's just a massive animal, and honestly, it's kind of terrifying. Huge, strong arms, strong legs, strong torso. Like, this thing, at least in my opinion, it was built to fight. Like,
There's
I would not want to be a carnivorous dinosaur and go after an Iguanodon. I'd go after anything else.
also some
You
paleo
want
art.
to say the meme?
Talk dumb,
Yeah,
get
go.
the thumb.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there's paleo somewhere of an iguanodon just absolutely annihilating. It's either a baryonyx or a megalosaurus. I forgot which one, but
There's a lot of art of it. Like, if you want
yes,
to have a dinosaur fighting another dinosaur and have it be an ornithopod, you pick an Iguanodon.
iguanodon, or you pick a Montosaurus and actually allow it to defend itself.
That's a more modern thing, though.
It is more modern, yeah. Old used to be only
I think
iguanodon.
Iguanodon has always been portrayed as something that could fight, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, except in
Especially
Walking
that
With,
fun fight.
actually.
Hmm.
Walking With, it's not really shown as that. It kind of just dies to the weird Utah raptor that exists for some reason.
Well, yeah, but because they threw a Utah raptor into Spain.
That's a good point.
But I'd like to talk about some modern depictions of this animal
Pretty.
too. If you're looking for an up-to-date reconstruction and want to see what this animal looks like from a lot of angles, there's a couple games I'd recommend, but also some media depictions that have actually really good Iguanodon representation. The first one is a dinosaur game called Path of Titans, where Iguanodon is a huge herbivore that you don't want to fight head on.
No, it
This
hurts.
is an herbivore you have to use strategy against, and I like that because a lot of ornithopods aren't like that in media. It also highlights something that not a lot of people notice. Iguanodon is huge. Like, it's objectively a massive animal.
It's elephant sized. It's weight. Most
I think a
people
little
imagine
bigger.
hadrosaurs. Yeah,
Or,
most
like,
people imagine
really
12
big.
feet at the hip, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. Actually,
this thing, especially on its hind legs, would stand taller than, at least at the hips, than a lot of sauropods.
it's
It's
probably
big.
it's fully tall, two-legged. I'm gonna say two-legged mode arcs on the brain. When it went bipedal, it's probably around 2 stories tall. Like it could look
Easily.
into a 2-story building.
Easily.
Most
Actually, we have an upright Iguanodon. This is one of the Bernasart ones. It's at
Yeah,
least 15 feet tall.
it's too
And
big.
I could be wrong, but this might be the Mantellosaurus. So this is one of the smaller ones.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, most, if you didn't know, most hadrosaurs and dinosaurs in general that are herbivorous are bigger than you think. Um, no matter what, they will be bigger than you think.
Yeah. And even if you know them to be big, because dinosaur.
Yeah, seeing them in
Um,
person is
But
insane.
Path of Titans isn't alone. Recently, the Jurassic Park franchise took a
It's
shot
so
at
pretty.
Iguanodon too. And notably, it's the only ornithopod that can fight against predators, which, again, it's a thing with Iguanodon. Another thing I want to shout out to this depiction, though, is in Jurassic World Dominion, it's not Iguanodon, even though it's labeled as it. This is Mantellosaurus.
It's so obvious.
Yeah, as you can see with them side by side, it has much smaller front limbs, it has a longer head, and a smaller tail.
This depiction really shows the difference between Iguanodon and Mantellosaurus. If you just bulk up the Iguanodon's neck a bit,
Yep,
Iguanodon's front limbs, as I said before, are so big compared to every other ornithopod that exists. It's insane.
yeah. And for our last depictions, though they're not quite as modern, Disney's Dinosaur actually has a really good Iguanodon. And one thing I want to point out here, they have different versions of Iguanodon.
Yeah.
And this is just a headcanon of mine, but I like to think that this represents all the different species of Iguanodon
Yeah, Brute,
that were still
Crone,
valid at this time.
Aladar, and Nera.
Yes.
It can actually be predicted that Brute and Crone are proper Iguanodon, and Aladar and Illyria, I forgot her name.
Nera. Yeah.
Nera are Mantellosaurus.
Mantella.
Yeah.
She's
I could kind of see.
smaller.
Yeah,
She's really
Nera
small.
I would buy as Mantellosaurus. At least in the movie, Aladar has more Iguanodon proportions, and so does Crone is also very Iguanodon. Bruton is the odd one out, especially also with a really big nose.
Maybe he's just fat.
That's also true.
That's true. He could just be a big boy.
He was greedy in that movie.
That's
Yeah.
true.
No, I thought Bruton was the one that died to the Carnosaur. It was like Aladar, you're actually good. Or was that Crone?
That was Crone.
That was
In the
Crone?
cave.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was Crone. I thought it was Bruton.
no, it was Bruton.
Bruton, yeah. But Crone was Nera's older brother.
Yes.
So they gotta
Oh,
be somewhere in there.
never mind. I'm wrong. Okay.
And lastly, we already brought it up, but walking with dinosaurs. Even 20-ish years, 26 years later,
Yeah. Wow.
It is 26.
it's closer to 30. It's close. It's almost 30 years old.
Well, actually, thank God it's coming out this year again. We might get a new Iguanodon design. We don't
That's true. Walking with dinosaurs is coming back,
Mhm,
so you never know.
this year. I'm
Yeah.
actually
125.
really excited for that.
But at any rate, even though this is now Iguanodon galvensis, and this is now Decododon, they're still pretty good Iguanodonts overall.
Yeah.
And
There are
and
other
here's
representations.
to well, I just want to say, here's to another 200 years of discovery. I'm excited to see how things change going forward because I know they will change.
Oh, probably. I don't know if Iguanodon will change much, unless we discover it has feathers for some reason.
I hope it goes back to the Crystal Palace style.
Really?
Just goes all
I
the way
like the
back
chunky
around.
boy. Yeah, go back around.
Has that ever happened?
Imagine we
in science
eventually
where,
do
like, people-
find a. What if we do eventually find like a 40-foot long iguana relative?
Oh gosh.
Oh, I don't doubt. we'll find
Iguanosaurus.
something. I don't doubt something that eventually we'll find. We've kind of already found what the Crystal Palace Iguanodon looks like. It's just going to be a weird synapsid.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just going
That's
to be
true.
a weird synapsid.
Oh boy.
Spinosaurus is not going to grow wings.
2050.
Hey, you never know. You never
It's
know,
done.
especially with
Done.
that thing. Oh, has it reached its final evolution?
I'm of the opinion, unless we discover Spinosaurus, it's reached its final evolution.
This isn't even my final form.
Well, at any rate, that's the end of the presentation. But no need to cut it off yet. Does anyone have any last questions?
Yeah.
Or any comments on anything we've learned? If anyone wants to go back over any of the slides, I can pull them up nice and easy, like this. Just any last thoughts, folks? Any at all?
Before I rip off my thumb flag.
I'm going to see if we have.
You disarmed the Iguanodon?
I've disarmed the Iguanodon.
I'm going to see if we have anything
Oh, jeez.
I gotta wash
in
my hands.
Wikipedia that's like.
Oh my God, look at my mouth.
You know, they were asking you to do a Southern accent. Do you want to do a bit of Southern before we go?
I sure don't.
I don't think they can hear you from here. Oh, I see. Maya Adkison is asking if we can start from the beginning.
Uh-huh. No.
Oh, here, Thomas Rutledge has it. We just have to soak Spinosaurus in Red Bull and it'll get wings.
Just soak all of its bones in Red Bull.
It's fantastic.
Let's see. Pogo Master asks, how do you feel about Parasaurolophus having a skin membrane under
That's
the
a good
crust?
question.
Do you think that's
Mhm.
possible?
Yeah.
I think it depends on the species.
like Ceratocristatus versus Tubicid and Baccarat.
I think Cridocristatus probably didn't because it's so low. I'm remembering which one has the
Yeah, it's a
one.
much lower skull.
Whereas
I- Oh
actually
yeah,
I have seen
Uniguana is your Dawn also.
I've seen a good depiction of Parasaurolophus where they put more keratin on its horn and that whole Jesus Christ. They
Oh,
put
the Arc one does
keratin.
that.
The Arc one does do that. They put keratin on its why am I calling it a horn? Crest. But
Crest.
they make it almost like a spoon.
Mhm.
I like do cool things with ornithopods. We're starting to do it with sauropods, like the Titanosaurus and the New Jurassic and Dreadnoughtus. But
Yeah.
do cool things. Animals are weird. They do weird things.
That's true. I mean, I'm not against it, and I don't mind it when I see it depicted. It just I don't know, but I'd be interested.
We'll probably never
Uh,
know because we never find paras.
That's fair. Well, there's a chance with Dinosaur Park, but Sarcastic Therapsid asks, what books would you recommend for dino anatomy? Are there any good publicly available ones you can think of?
Publicly available.
Yeah.
I know they're out there. I just have.
Anatomy specifically.
Do you remember what that book I told you I grew up drawing pictures
Yes, that's the one I was thinking of too, because I showed you mine as well, and they're both times
Wait, wasn't it done by one of the Toms? Like, was it Carr?
Yeah, Donald Prothero, Tom Carr.
Hi everyone. I don't know what just happened.
Sorry, I clicked the wrong button and disappeared. I'm
I'm
trying to think. We have a book in mind. We just can't remember the name. What was the artist's name? Prothero?
Yeah, Donald Prothero. There's Prehistoric Life on Earth is a decent one. That's more used for like my paleontology textbook.
yeah.
He has a
Nope.
ton of different.
Hmm.
Oh gosh.
I don't think he was the
story of
artist.
oh no, not the artist.
No,
He's an author.
he was.
There are probably books on just basic
That's-
anatomy in general of animals that
Uh,
would probably help too.
Yep. So I can show this. Nessie recommends Bringing Fossils to Life. This book here.
Yeah. It's more
Oh, that's such a. I love those trilobites.
There's one.
Just pretty.
If I can think of it, I'll say it, but I can't remember it. There's one for dinosaurs that's really good. I think it's done by either Thomas Carr or Tom Holtz. It's one of the Thomases.
One of the Toms.
Who does Tyrannosaur work, which never gets confusing.
Yeah.
We've been asked two more questions, by the way.
Oh, let's see.
One of which is, what are our thoughts on the recreation of the para sound, the official one? Official.
Oh, that's a good question.
I like the boat sound.
It's fun. It's probably correct too.
Well,
White goosey.
we know the model is correct, but I don't know. The thing is, it would probably sound different with flesh on the bones. So I think it gives us an idea of what
It might also
looks
sound
like.
different. They should redo the test with the other species. I want to
agree.
see if Cridocristatus sounds different. And the other question is, what's the opinion on ornitho?
Grimchile.
I hate I hate my
Ornithocelida
tongue. Yeah,
and Chileosaurus.
Chileosaurus.
I don't know the Ornithocelida hypothesis. I'm not familiar with that.
Let me see if I can find it.
Isn't Chileosaurus theropod?
Yes, it's a very, very, very early theropod.
Oh, it's cute.
Oh, I see what this hypothesis is. Give me 2 seconds. This was a new hypothesis coined in 2017 that
Oh, okay.
Huxley. Huxley made as well.
So
Huh.
it's
This is
it's
interesting.
ornithischians and theropods being together, and sauropods being the outgroup, splitting
Oh.
earlier.
I don't support that. That's because I support the idea that silosaurs are or silosaurs are earlier ornithopods. Oh my God, I've become darkness. Why have I done that?
You turn your screen brightness down. That can actually affect it a lot.
Oh, good to know. Just do this.
Sarcastic Therapsid wants to get better at identifying specific fossils. So that's fun. Um, a good place to start is just know what rock formation you're looking at. Most rock formations have been explored, not all of them, notably, but many of them have, and many of them do have fauna lists, so lists of
Yeah.
animals. So, like if you know you're working with a snail, you look up snails from the Sundance Formation or snails from the Maori Shale. And you'll probably get a good list there, and you can just go through them. As you start to identify more and more things, you start to get a feel for what things are or what they may be, and it helps speed up your search. Um,
It also
really,
depends
it's
how
just the kind of thing
diagnostic
that you
the
get better
fossil,
at it as you do it more.
because for example, mammals tend to have more diagnostic small features like teeth, whereas dinosaurs tend to not. Like most of the fossils you'll find will be teeth or bone fragments. Or,
Mhm.
yeah, you won't find big stuff very often unless you know how to find it, or you get lucky, or you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. There are some dinosaurs that have weirdly diagnostic characteristics. Pachycephalosaurids, their premaxillary teeth at the front of their mouths are really weird. Same for troodontids. If you see a
They
troodontid
look
tooth, you know what it is.
very similar to each other,
Notably similar.
actually.
Well, you don't think so, and you actually work with them.
Yeah.
Well, she
But you're
studies
also an
them, that's
expert.
why she doesn't think they look similar.
Um, Otherwise, sometimes you get something like an iguanodon with a very general herbivorous reptile tooth.
Yeah, or crocodilian teeth look like anything that eats fish.
Yeah. Well, that
Yeah.
conical. That's hard to say. Iconical.
Iconic,
Iconical.
conical.
Like,
An iconical.
Yeah,
yeah.
iconicals.
Notably, they look so similar that a billion Spinosaurid taxa are named after them.
Hmm. Let's see. Well, Sarcastic Therapsid says finding rock formation should be easy. Good, or big geology nerd. Good, great place to start.
Yes.
Oh, Caden says they should name a Tyrannosaurid from Asia Anastasia.
Russia.
Yeah, from Russia.
Anastasia.
You know, that could work. Honestly, that could work.
Have we found any Tyrannosaurids from Russia in general?
We have a Tyrannosauroid, Kylescus. It's a Proceratosaur.
Ah,
It's just a skull and a few finger bones, I think.
that's actually not bad. I was expecting you to say we have a foot.
Pogo Master points out that some universities have open courseware uh, giving courses on geology and geobiology. That's true.
Yeah.
Paleontology, too. A lot of universities will publish somewhat outdated material just because it's not cutting edge anymore. And while it
Yeah.
might not be cutting edge, you can still learn a ton from it.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be that out of date either, so you have a really good basis.
The other thing that will help, and I know this sounds scary to do, but ask someone who knows what they're doing. That always helps.
Well, not just ask someone who knows what they're doing, ask them how they know.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I've
exactly.
learned you can learn a lot just by doing that.
Yeah, Troodon's still under debate right now.
Oh. Well, apparently
it's
Rodon skeleton at the MOR.
They do. I've dusted that case several times. So I'll show you when we get there.
Okay.
again.
Subscribe if you want to go on a tour of the Museum of the Rockies with Nessie someday.
I might actually be visit Museum of Rockies because I might be joining them actually. The arrow is that way. In a few months. Depends when they get things out of the rock.
Also depends on if Harvard gets back to you.
Well, actually, Harvard would not interfere with this, so at all.
That's fair. And hey, you're welcome for answering questions or sarcastic
Oh,
throughout.
yeah, it's fine.
If anyone watching the upload of this later has any questions, just ask them in the comments. Nessie and I will be watching them on both of our uploads, and we'll be happy to answer anything we see.
And yeah, it's
On that
also
note, if you're watching on my side, which according to this streaming service, 8 of you are, go check out Nessie's channel
And
yes,
vice
go.
versa. Dark
Yep.
Dino.
at ypaleo, at Dr. Dino, like I'm German. We're both working on making new videos, new live streams, new presentations. We're here to teach you guys about dinosaurs and stuff. Also, Dom has a visitor.
I got
Jesus
cake to eat.
Christ, give me a heart attack.
True, we're gonna have to dig into the cake tonight.
Rah.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, go subscribe
You're
to
at
Doc Maya's
664.
channel.
Yay.
Wow, you're gonna overtake me tonight, aren't you?
Well, when you put it that way. I got cake to eat
Yeah, that's true.
and cookies.
Also, go subscribe to mine and Doc's channel. It is Boneheads. Me, Doc, and another paleontologist in training, Gojira, talk about designs in media and
Yes.
hopefully other things
Yes, we're hoping to open it up to more things soon.
this year.
It won't show up if you just search the Boneheads. It's best if you search the Boneheads ARK, ARK.
Or Boneheads Allosaurus works because we have actual weirdly high amount of views on that video.
Yeah. But for now, I think we've drawn out this goodbye for quite a while. We hope. Yeah, Nessie's chowing down. We haven't had dinner yet. We hope you
You
guys have
just
had a
eat
good
that
time
without
learning
a
about.
fork?
She's gonna do it again. She's a
I
duck.
got green on my face. Oh, his face.
Yep.
He
Happy
actually
birthday,
cleaned.
Iguanodon.
That's impressive.
If you've enjoyed celebrating Iguanodon's 200th birthday with us, let us know. Ask us any other dino questions in the comments. And we hope you all have a great night. Adios.
Bye.